Let's talk about an important issue that many people talk about: the pursuit of happiness. Now, a woman once asked me, "Are you happy doing what you're doing in life?" I answered her question with a question. Should what I do be based upon a feeling of happiness? The woman replied, "Well, you should be happy doing whatever it is you find yourself doing." My response was, I am perturbed by the pursuit of happiness, and I don't believe it's relevant to purpose. I believe purpose is more meaningful than happiness. Now, before you accuse me of being negative, allow me to explain my position, for it will ultimately end in love. I promise you that. Now, what is someone pursuing when that person is pursuing happiness? Is the pursuit of happiness a noble pursuit? Is it possible that it's actually cowardice? I'll explain this. Does a person truly deserve to be happy at all times? Should pain and suffering always be avoided? And just as a side note, go see my other article or other video, wherever media outlet you find this. It's called Why Pain and Suffering. If you just search pain and suffering for anything under my name, you'll find it. But should pain and suffering always be avoided? Can purpose be found through pain and suffering? What is the ultimate goal of the pursuit of happiness? Now, I want to challenge you. I want to have a deep, serious conversation for once. Hopefully, you'll join me. See, comedy stems from reality. It originates from truth. People laugh when they're able to relate to the root of the reference. Comedy is created with the hope of being able to cope, to make light of the darkness we experience. Even knowing the truth, most people will laugh and choose to cope. Now, examine the reality from which the coping was created. It's sad because it's true. Humans are very versed in coping with the worst. Be careful what you prioritize to first. Humans are often coerced into traveling head first in reverse to the conjured cope of hope that is cursed, simply because humans resist facing their fears and overcoming obstacles. All hail happiness, right? Well, happiness will be our guide and lead us to victory, right? If it makes you happy, do it, right? Well, you better be certain you're right. Otherwise, what's left? Happiness. You see, I had to ponder on that concept for a long time. As if listening to cult members repeating the words of their instructor, I have heard many different people recite the same mantra over and over. If it makes you happy, do it. If it makes you happy, do it. Hey, if it makes you happy, do it. Even my own mother had told me many times, I want you to do what will make you happy. It is possible to have good intentions yet travel in the wrong direction. Is a path based on happiness a wise route to travel? Can it be wise unless it's right? Is the pursuit of happiness right? Now, I believe that happy is merely a term used to describe a temporary feeling that one receives when one gets a break from the sad reality of life. In this sin-filled and fallen world in which we all live, sadness is the constant of life. Only when one is able to rise above the sea level of sadness does one experience the feeling known as happiness. I would relate happiness to the feeling one gets when finally inhaling oxygen after being held underwater to the point of nearly drowning. Happiness is merely a breath of fresh air from our stagnant society in which people suffocate in their sufferings. It seems that happiness is merely a discontinuity from misery, only enjoyable and desirable by comparison. Now, can I be honest with you? Will you allow me to expound upon my thoughts? Can you refrain from judging me about all this until you have heard everything I have to say. Hear me out. The truth is that I can't seem to figure out how to obtain that feeling of happiness for an extended period of time. Happiness only seems to exist in short bursts between the extended drudgeries of life's normalcy. But unless happiness is the purpose of life, does it really matter if it is the constant? I would say no. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if happiness is the constant. Happiness is chocolate cake. Can you imagine what everyone would look like if chocolate cake were the constant? Happiness seems to be correlated to feelings. However, feelings can be misleading. Feelings don't always determine facts. Even a drug addict receives the short burst of happiness after getting a temporary fix. Even a cheating wife or husband receives the short burst of happiness while sinning against his or her spouse with another happy-driven individual. For if happiness is the purpose of existence, what can be labeled as right or wrong? How can it possibly be wrong to do drugs if it brings the user-abuser, happiness? How can cheating on your husband or wife be considered wrong if it brings you happiness? What is the pursuit of happiness? The pursuit of happiness is nothing more than the pursuit of pleasure. Happiness simply cannot be the purpose of life. Happiness only fulfills mere moments, but always leaves people grasping for more. Too many people trade purpose for pleasure. So what then? What is my purpose? I am not convinced that my happiness is of any importance to this world or my own purpose. Is there a purpose? Why am I here? Why do I exist? Happiness must not be the focus point in our journey through this life. Happiness seems to be unconcerned with the purpose of others. In addition, happiness seems to be so self-centered that the intensely focused approach to obtaining happiness seems to be unconcerned even with one's own purpose. The pursuit of happiness can be dangerous and sometimes deadly. I have reason to be wary of a smile or a laugh, because there's no telling from where the smile or laughter originated. After all, I have seen evil people smile and laugh before. Have you seen Ted Bundy in the courtroom, smiling away? I've seen it. You've seen it. Haven't we? Evil is real, isn't it? And if you struggle with that, please see my other article or video, What About Evil? It's real, right? But what is real? What is real? See, solipsism breeds sin when the focus is all on self. Therefore, happiness warrants caution and invokes question of motivation and intention. I often observe that the pursuit of happiness for self often produces negative consequences for others around that particular happy-driven individual. And if happiness and purpose aren't analogous, what purpose does happiness serve? But why do we possess the innate ability to feel happiness if happiness serves no purpose, so that it must serve a purpose? There must be a purpose for happiness. A purpose. Not the purpose. What is the purpose of happiness? To keep us going? To show us that ultimate happiness is possible? Is happiness the ultimate goal in which we should all strive to achieve? When? In this lifetime? Certainly not. I want to be happy, but I don't know how to be happy and remain happy at all times. It's simply not possible, especially if you allow yourself to feel the pain of others. Happiness is not the constant. When I do manage to obtain that feeling of happiness, I'm unable to keep it without also keeping a selfish focus on myself. My happiness starts to dissipate once I start thinking of others' pain and suffering. Sometimes I even feel guilty for possessing happiness when so many other people in this world live in misery and despair. What is so special about me? Why should I be happy? Now, should happiness be a constant in my life when so many people are suffering in this world? And again, why is there suffering? But why do we exist at all? Why does it matter? Does it matter? What is important? The only thing that seems important to me at this time is knowing truth. And please see my other article or video. What is truth? I exist. You exist. I exist. I need to know why I exist. You can see my other article or video about that. What is your why? Now you exist. Don't you want to know why you exist? What is the meaning of life? What is your purpose for being alive? Why is there life at all when there doesn't need to be life? Life is quite complicated. And to be honest, I don't really care much for it most of the time. Now please allow me to bring clarity to what I just said. I like life as I believe it should be experienced, but I hate the life that humans have distorted and disfigured in order to accommodate their arrogant, atrocious, and abhorrent agendas. Now, one example of an atrocious agenda is the abhorrent act of abortion, and you can see my other article about abortion. Why are we willingly murdering babies and snuffing out life? Just so a woman can fulfill her pursuit of happiness? Now, I don't understand life as it is in its current state, only as it should be experienced. Therefore, I'm an outcast, imprisoned in a free yet fallen world. It is becoming increasingly evident that the more knowledge I acquire, the more I realize just how much I don't know. And you should also feel the same way. We don't know everything. Please see my other article or video. The quest for truth begins with questions. I'm aware that I could obtain the feeling of happiness more often than I currently do. However, I'm aware I would be obtaining that feeling of happiness at the expense of others. I'm aware that much of the misery I feel is self-inflicted because I choose to feel and care so deeply for others. However, I believe that the alternative of harvesting happiness at the expense of others would not be fulfilling. Hunting happiness is an endless endeavor, and an unfulfilling endeavor at that. A human hunting happiness is like a cheetah hunting a gazelle. The amount of effort and energy used to catch the prize will only replenish the effort and energy that was used to obtain the prize. Happiness produces no gain. The most happiness can do is help one sustain. The cycle never ends. The replenishment is always short-lived. Happiness always leaves you grasping for more. All batteries must either be recharged or die. A human continues to recharge the battery of his or her body until the body can no longer sustain the charge necessary to produce the movement which is necessary to sustain life. I hate the hunt. I'm tired and irritated by the body's weakness and dependency upon its seemingly everlasting soul to recharge it for another redundant day of hunting happiness. There is a soul, isn't there? Now, if I'm merely matter in motion, what does anything matter at all? Naturalism, atheism, materialism, it all leads into nihilism. Anyway, that's a different topic altogether. You can see all my articles about those. There's no good reason why anything should exist at all, unless God exists and there's a purpose to life. But we do exist. So, why? Why do we exist? To experience happiness? Certainly, life is not so superficial. Purpose cannot be so shallow. What produces happiness anyway? Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs asserts that basic needs must be met before happiness can ever be achieved. I believe that one's definition of success produces happiness. But how does one define success? Fame, fortune, fornication, family, fortitude? For many people, money equates to success because money eliminates the worry or anxiety over basic needs. Furthermore, money aids one's desire to obtain happiness, to seek pleasure. But those who are ignorant and those who are people pleasers, they both desire to promote the promise of paradise and a passionate proclamation of love and equality for all, a fairy tale happy ending for all who choose to believe. But that doesn't coincide with reality. And if a belief does not coincide with reality, it cannot be true. Belief does not prevent grief. In fact, my belief has brought me to grief many times. But that's how it is in a sin-filled and fallen world. Earth is seemingly overpopulated, and the only way to rise to the top is to pull others down while climbing up. That's the way of the world. There is much wisdom to be found in life by simply examining nature. Okay, so nature is pure, raw, mechanical, and typically uncorrupted by influence. Nature doesn't try to call attention to itself. It doesn't attempt to be anything it's not. If there is an occurrence in nature, it happens by divine order. It was destined to happen. In order to win the prize of the female, male blue whales try to push each other down and, if necessary, with intent to drown. The most aggressive male wins the prize, ends up with the female. Now, take your pick. Hippopotamus, silverback gorilla, or even a lion. The most aggressive male will dominate and receive whatever prize it desires. Within nature, the dominance hierarchy declares that losers are inevitable. There are winners, and there are losers. Sink or swim, fight or flight, kill or be killed. That is life in its current state in the sin-filled fallen world in which we all live. Therefore, the notion that humans will coexist and live in peace, and that's wishful thinking. Really. And this isn't negativity. It's just reality. So long as life exists in this current state, there will always be competition to live and reason to die. Pain and suffering is inevitable. Why? Well, because people pursue pleasure. So, is that the real reason so many humans pursue happiness? To escape pain and suffering? Is that a noble pursuit? Is it possible that it's cowardice? Humans are just as primitive as animals and resort to the same primal instincts. We dress to impress, we dance to advance, we strut and flaunt, we even kill to get what we want. But more so than animals, humans dig deeper into the expanse of evil because we conjure lies and concoct plans in order to appease our carnality. The demonic deeds of humans are often premeditated. Well, I despise the desire to bring others down just so I can be on top. I refuse to allow my body to be a flagitious factory that will produce misery for others, all for the selfish sake of my happiness. I am convinced the purpose of my existence has little or nothing to do with my happiness. Now, it's true, I am unhappy a lot of the time, but it's not because of a lack of joy. I have joy within. The joy of knowing that there is a God. The joy of knowing that Jesus loved us enough to save us from ourselves. The joy of being able to help people, even if it causes me sadness. Joy and happiness are not one and the same. I'm unhappy a lot of the time because I have refused to allow the superficial to sway my selections or settlements. I have refused to allow demons to desensitize me and detour me from the righteous decisions. I have refused to be plagued by promises of power. I have refused to allow my ethics to be eroded or my morals to be manipulated. I have refused to allow my hero to be anyone other than he who is holy. I refuse to allow my eternal soul to be misguided by temporary temptations of damning desires. And by living as such, I have become calloused to the ways of the world. Now, for a long time now, I have not felt temptation's incessant tapping. I have not been persuaded by pain nor pleasure, regardless of how persistent the pain or promising the pleasure. Am I impervious to evil's invasions? No, no. Evil's attacks are present and are evident by the persistent pain I do experience. But my armor is thick and my threshold for pain is pretty high. I simply choose not to be directed by the ways of this world. Now, if you can be honest with yourself, you will agree that in general, our society is superficial, our culture is corrupt. I feel as though I don't really fit in anywhere. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. But that's because I'm not of this world. I'm seemingly surrounded, yet feel incisively isolated. It's weird, isn't it? To be surrounded by so many people, yet so many of us feel alone. Why is that? Perhaps we're not living in our purpose, but I am a piece to the puzzle of life, and I do belong somewhere, even if I don't know where I belong. I may not be a cornerstone, but I am of the Creator and a component of the calling. And if God won't extract me from this execrable earth, I'll be forced to endure it until I get interlocked into my predetermined place within life's puzzle and fulfill my purpose. Well, while I exist, is happiness a goal in which I should strive to achieve? Is happiness our purpose? Or is happiness merely a covetous concept that will distract me from achieving my purpose? Also, how can the purified form of happiness be harvested in a world so impure? The very idea of me being happy creates conflict within myself, rendering any brief moment of happiness obsolete. Now, my mother desires me to do whatever makes me happy. My father desires me to climb to the top. If I do whatever makes me happy, my actions will most certainly produce misery for at least a few people. Though my mother would be happy knowing that I'm finally found happiness, would either of my parents be proud to know of the method to which my happiness was achieved? And what would the ramifications of my actions be in regards to many others? Others matter, don't they? Others are important, aren't they? To what degree? To what extent? Only so long as they don't take away from your happiness? I want you to think, really think about this. Keep an open mind, open heart, just think. If you were to get everything you ever wanted and fulfilled every desire in order to be happy, how many people would not have their desires fulfilled because of you and your happiness? Now, a quick example of this is the scenario of sexual relations. Let's suppose you pursue pleasure and receive happiness from having sex with someone you're physically attracted to, yet that person was not physically attracted to you and did not really want to have sex with you. Well, you would be happy, but would that other person be happy? So you see, if everyone's purpose was to pursue their happiness, there would be conflicts. All beliefs cannot be true if they contradict one another. Can you even fathom what would become of this world if everyone set their focus on obtaining happiness for self? I can think of 2 movies right now that just popped into my head that wasn't an original part of this message. The Purge. People are just pursuing their happiness. Bruce Almighty. That part when Jim Carrey is saying yes to every prayer, every desire. I want this, I want this. Well, if everyone gets their happiness, there's just chaos. A pursuit of happiness is self-centered. In addition, the pursuit may lack purpose. Just like the term fun, happiness is also subjective when put into proper perspective. The pursuit of purpose, however, will ultimately lead to joy. Happiness can always be found when fulfilling purpose, even if the discovery is not immediate. I must not risk my purpose by chasing the white rabbit of happiness down its black hole of absence. And though my arduous adventure to achieve my purpose may cause me to be unhappy a lot of the time, I will eventually discover happiness once my purpose is fulfilled. When that day comes, I will discover even more happiness as I notice that my happiness and fulfilled purpose continue to bring happiness to others. For the only way to obtain happiness and keep it is to help others obtain it. Now, I choose purpose over pleasure because the promise of pleasure can be found in the pursuit of purpose. I choose a purpose-driven life. But what is my purpose? What is your purpose? My purpose is to make life better for others by helping them to understand they were created for a purpose beyond what they currently see and experience. We do not exist to merely exist. Are you merely existing, or are you truly living? Purpose cannot be experienced if the heart and mind are numbed and medicated by happiness. Happiness is a drug that prevents potential. The person stuck in the pursuit of happiness is a sleepwalking citizen who is unable to experience growth through pain and suffering. If one is to pursue happiness, it should not be for self. If the purpose of your life was to make your own life better, well, you wouldn't be surrounded by so many other people. Your life is not your own, and your happiness has little or nothing to do with your purpose. Do you know why you exist? Do you know the meaning of life? Do you know your purpose? If you knew your Creator, you would know why you exist. Now, to know why I became a Christian, please see my other article or my other video. It's called My Testimony from Agnosticism to Atheism to Christianity. Oh, and just as a side note, suggestion, find this book by Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life, What on Earth Am I Here For? Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life, What on Earth Am I Here For? It's a great book, and it's a good place to start. Pursue purpose.